Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. In this episode, I want to talk about why working on your gut is not optional if you're using HRT. So, there's a lot of talk out there at the moment about HRT, which is fantastic, right? There's a lot of talk about perimenopause and using hormones. I'm a big believer in hormones. I know a lot about hormones. I even have a course called HRT Made Simple. Hormones are a longevity strategy. I myself take hormones and I believe in them and I advocate for them. So, you really do want to replace your hormones when you get into a low hormone state, because if you don't, your risk of disease increases, your risk of symptoms increase. I have done plenty of podcasts on HRT. So we'll link to some in the show notes. But on this episode, I want to talk about why, if you are on HRT, then you've got to work on your gut. And that's because hormones, whether they're exogenous or endogenous, whether we make them ourselves or we take them on board, they get metabolized in the liver and in the gut. So if our gut isn't optimal, then our liver will struggle and our gut will struggle to detoxify, metabolize these hormones. So we're going to speak about, first things first, is how do these hormones actually get metabolized? And you've probably heard about this. You've probably heard how hormones get metabolized in the liver. We have phase 1, we've got phase 2 as well. So they go through phase 1, then they go through phase 2. And this helps to sort of package them up and break them down so that we can then detoxify out not just hormones, but toxins, all kinds of things. But hormones go through these two phases of the liver. So we need the liver to be working really, really well. And what a lot of people don't know, and what is not spoken about enough, but I have been trying to say this for a while now, is that our gut seriously impacts our liver health. What gets detoxified out through what happens in the gut gets detoxified out through the liver. And so we actually have cases of people who have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, not because they're necessarily metabolically unhealthy, but because their gut is really unhealthy and it's impacted their liver so much that they've actually ended up with non-alcoholic fatty liver. So that's how much the gut can impact your liver and your detoxification pathways. And I want you to understand too that your gut can be impacting your liver pathways, your detox pathways without you even knowing it. One of the worst cases of gut health was a client of mine who had significant dysbiosis, huge amounts of a toxin or inflammatory molecule called LPS, but she didn't have any gut symptoms whatsoever, none. So it was quite eye-opening to her that you could actually have this gut that was significantly unwell, but have zero bloating, zero gas, zero indigestion. So please don't make the mistake of thinking, I don't have a gut problem whatsoever because I've got no symptoms. That is simply not the case at all. So when you're trying to work on your liver pathways, the most important thing, in my opinion, for liver health is, of course, you don't want to be having alcohol. You want to lower your toxic burden. If you can, you want to do saunas. But nutrients, we're talking minerals, vitamins, amino acids, these make those pathways tick. People always reach for the more exciting, sexy supplements like milk thistle or whatever the case may be. But really, we want to start with the foundations of what the body actually uses and actually wants, and that is nutrients. And if your nutrients are lacking because maybe you've got a gut absorption issue you don't know about, and you need to optimize the intestinal lining so that you can better absorb your nutrients, or bring on board some stomach acid so you can better absorb your nutrients, because these nutrients make those genetic pathways tick properly. So if you haven't got some of these nutrients, you're going to get this backlog of those genetic pathways in the liver that detoxify out your hormones. And then, like I said, if you've got a poor gut health, dysbiosis, large amounts of LPS, maybe you've got sluggish bile, then all of this can also negatively affect the liver, because it can seep out through the gut, and then whatever gets out through the gut needs to be detoxified through the liver. Then we have so when it comes to DIM, by the way, I never use DIM ever. Midlife women, I really think it's unnecessary. And I've seen clinically women who try to use DIM they often end up with low estrogen symptoms because in midlife, our estrogen is not where it used to be. And so when you take on board DIM, really think about how that's going to influence your estrogen. And we do have the research to show that it dips that estrogen down. It's not what we want. As midlife women, we love estrogen. Estrogen is protective. Estrogen is really health supportive. The last thing we want to do is lower our estrogen. So DIM and milk thistle. I never use DIM. I haven't in many, many years. I've spoken out about DIM many times. Milk thistle may have a time and a place, but always go back to the foundations for your liver detoxification. It comes down to the nutrients and gut health. Then we have what's known as the estrobolome in the gut. So this is more phase. So we have phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox in the liver, and then we have what's kind of more known as phase 3 detoxification in the gut. And this is the estrobolome. And the estrobolome is really how we're going to package up and eliminate our used up old estrogen in particular. So if we've got this imbalanced gut with too much of the quote bad bacteria, not enough of the good, and the bad are making these metabolites that are really not very nice, then you can really strain that estrobolome. And one of the things that we can see from a dysbiotic gut is an increase in an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase. And beta-glucuronidase will deconjugate estrogen from glucuronic acid, which is not what we want. When that happens, estrogen needs to hold the hand of glucuronic acid, and then glucuronic acid chaperones that used up old estrogen that we don't want anymore out of the body via our poop. But when we've got too high of an activity of beta-glucuronidase enzyme, and it's high, and we measure this on stool tests, then what can happen is that bond is broken, and then estrogen no longer has its little chaperone, and it just recirculates through the body. It can lead to fatigue and sluggishness and this sort of estrogen, quote, dominance kind of picture. I don't like that term, but estrogen recirculating back through the body. So we need phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 in the gut with the estrobolome and beta-glucuronidase working optimally to make sure that your HRT and your own hormones that you make as well, endogenously, not just your exogenous HRT, is metabolized properly. We need all 3 stages of this detoxification and metabolizing pathways to be working really, really properly. Now, listen, I never use calcium D-glucarate. I do not find that it's necessary at all. And I am a big believer, if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I really like to spend my clients' money smartly. And I do not believe it's smart to use calcium D-glucarate. We typically need quite high dosages, but you're just not even, you're not hitting the root cause. Calcium D-glucarate, a lot of people come to me on it. A lot of people use it because somebody's got high beta-glucuronidase. That is not the right approach. You've got to think about why beta-glucuronidase might be high in the first place. And there's only one reason. And that one reason is because of gut dysbiosis. Usually what I see, it's a particular bacteria called Pneumococcus narvis that tends to elevate beta-glucuronidase, but there's a lot of different bacteria that can elevate beta-glucuronidase. But when you run the right stool test, you can see what that bacteria is. If you've got high beta-glucuronidase, you can go in and you can take a look and you can actually pinpoint which bacteria is causing that beta-glucuronidase to elevate. And then when you understand the microbiome, then you know, not you, but your practitioner will know how to create a protocol to support the good guys, knock back the not so good guys or the guys that have overgrown. And then once you support that dysbiosis and get that gut healthy again, that's how the beta-glucuronidase comes down. It works every time, right? So you don't waste money on a supplement when really you should be spending money on supplements to support the dysbiosis. That's the root cause. That's the driver of the high beta-glucuronidase in the first place. So I do not use it. I do not use calcium D-glucarate ever. It's never, ever warranted. Remember, even if you have absolutely no gut symptoms, it does not mean you have a healthy gut. Do not be mistaken here. I've seen it time and time again. Just because you eat really healthy or eat really clean does not mean you have a healthy gut. So if you're an HRT, in my opinion, Two of the best things you can do to optimize your phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 is an HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis, and a gut test, and working on your gut. Or maybe it's a SIBO test. If you do have gut symptoms, you clearly have a gut problem. And maybe it's a SIBO test you need more than a stool test, or maybe you need both. And the HTMA I like because the HTMA gives us more concrete and beneficial data than blood work when it comes to minerals. You just can't rely on blood. When your minerals in blood start to get really out of whack, that's pretty far progressed problems, because that means that your blood pH is at risk, and if our blood pH is at risk, we can die. So that doesn't typically isn't really what I see in practice, but the HTMA gives us much better data on minerals, and from there we can make some assumptions about your vitamins. And then I also look at blood work, and that's how I work with my clients. I always look at blood because we can tell a lot in blood. I like to look at HTMA though for minerals particularly, and then we always look at the gut. So remember, you can be doing everything right with your HRT, and if you're just trying to tweak it here and there and you think it's a dose thing and you're just not feeling right, you're getting a reaction, or you just can't quite get it right, stop hitting your head against a brick wall. Look at your gut, look at your detox pathways, maybe look at your minerals as well, and get the phase 1, 2, and 3 humming really, really nicely. And then that's how you will probably end up feeling a lot better. All right. If you want to work with me, if you're listening to this in real time, I may have some packages left for the month, but you're going to have to go to the show notes, click the link, and see if there's any left. If they are, I'd love to work with you. And if you've got any questions, you can just come over. I'm at Tara Thorne Wellness on Instagram. That's the best way to get in touch with me, because we can do like some messages back and forth. I can send you some voice messages there. If you are enjoying this podcast, please do leave me a 5-star review. It's the way we get the message out there. And I do deeply, deeply appreciate you taking that time out of your day to leave me that review. So if you can find the time to do that, I would appreciate it. Make sure you share this with anybody you think will benefit as well. Thank you for listening, and I'll be back again soon. Bye for now. I am not a medical professional, and the information provided in this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. I do not have access to your individual medical history or circumstances, so the content discussed here should not be considered as medical advice. Before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or considering the use of supplements, please consult with a qualified healthcare professional or your doctor to ensure it's safe and appropriate for your specific situation. Any decisions you make based on the content of this podcast are at your own discretion and risk. Thank you for tuning in.